pastimes are described in various biographies. The most famous is Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavata, Chaitanya Mangal. Then Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak, then Chaitanya Charita, then Chaitanya Charita Mahakavya. Like this, there are several biographies of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Out of those several biographies, 3 are very prominently discussed. And those 3 are known to us. That is Chaitanya Charitamrut. And we are fortunate to have the Bhaktivedanta purports for this Chaitanya Charitamrut. Then we have Chaitanya Bhagavat. Then we have Chaitanya Mangal. Chaitanya Charitamrut was compiled by Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. Chaitanya Bhagavat was compiled by Vrindavan Das Thakur. Interestingly, Lord Nityananda Prabhu is the spiritual master of both the authors. And he is the one who instructed them to write it. And third one, that is Chaitanya Mangal, is compiled by Srila Lochan Das Thakur. And we are about to discuss his glories. In Bengal, there is a district called Vardhaman. There is an area called Katwa. And in that Katwa district, there is a village called Kogram, which is on the banks of Ajay river. On the very bank of this river, there was a house of Kamlakar and Sadanandi. Sadanandi is the name of Srila Lochandas Thakur's mother, and Kamlakar is the name of his father. And this family was belonging to physicians' family. They were doctors. We find several doctors and several physician families in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even Murari Gupta was a physician. Mukunda Sarkar was a physician. And we find here Srila Lochan Das Thakur also appeared in the family of those of physicians. And he appeared today. The Tithi is Pausha Shukla Paksha Pratipada. Right from his childhood, he was exhibiting the symptoms of a pure devotee. And he was fortunate enough to get the association of Narahari Sarkar. Do you know who is Narahari Sarkar? Every day we sing his name. Every day we chant his name. What is his name? Where do we sing? Kibanara Hari Adi Kori Chamara Dhulaya. So this great Narahari Sarkar was the constant and dear companion of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Indeed, it is mentioned in several places that he was the only associate of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who could glorify the Lord as Lord himself. Otherwise, apart from him, nobody was allowed to call Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only Narahari Sarkar was having that license to call Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on his face as Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu liked that. You can just imagine the unique position of Sri Narahari Sarkar. And he has that eternal seva of chanting with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu while doing this Chamara seva to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he can call him as Krishna or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We remember once Advaita Acharya dared that in Jagannath Puri. He had a group of devotees and he was chanting. There was a Sankirtan, and in that Sankirtan, Krishna Nam was banned. Krishna Nam was banned in that Sankirtan. Only and only Gauranga Mahaprabhu's names were being chanted. Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hare. You appear to be very hungry and you appear to be very, thin and lean. Please Try to chant little louder so that Lochan Das Thakur will be happy to hear your singings. Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hare. Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hare. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard there was some Tamalche sound, some kirtan was going on, so he came out of his bhajan place, that is Gambhira, and he was going towards the Sankirtan. And he found, oh, they are chanting my names. He became utterly displeased and he went back to his residence and he laid down. He could not sleep also and he could not come out also. He did not like that. And who was the leader? Advaita Acharya. And because Advaita Acharya was the leader, he could not say anything. He could not say anything. But he was not happy with that. Actually, internally he was happy, but he was showing that pastime. He was exhibiting the pastime of being humble servant of Lord Krishna. So, that story goes ahead and ahead. I just wanted to narrate that story for the cause of showing the importance of Narhari Sarkar. He was allowed to say Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Even Advaita Acharya was not allowed. Just imagine the greatness of Narhari Sarkar. So it's not that Narhari Sarkar is greater than Advaita Acharya. Kaviraj Goswami says, do not compare among two devotees or between two devotees. It's not good for our devotional service. But the special unique quality of Narhari Sarkar that I'm trying to glorify here, and Lochan Das Thakur was the fortunate disciple of this Narhari Sarkar, and he is the one who taught Narhari Sarkar taught Lochan Das Thakur how to do kirtans, how to sing. And there are various meters in Bengali language. There are various ragas and tunes. Narhari Sarkar specifically taught Lochan Das Thakur the typical Bengali meter, which is called as Panchali. And that's why we find Chaitanya Mangal in that raga or in that tune of Panchali. So in the ancient times, in the medieval India and before that also, Vedic culture was very prevalent and they were following the Vedic etiquettes properly. When Lochan Das Thakur was a small boy only, he did not know much about the world. He was married to one Mataji, one girl. She was also very small. And the Vedic tradition was so nice. They would marry when they were only kids, and when the kids grow and they come up to a proper age of being united, that time the parents would unite them with another festival. So they married at an early age, and thereafter Narhari Sarkar was training Lochan Das Thakur. Several years were just passed like that, and Lochan Das Thakur forgot that he was married. He forgot that he was married. Eventually, the father-in-law of Lochan Das Thakur, he thought, my girl is grown up now. Now she needs to go with her husband at his place. Where is Lochan Das? He was very much shocked that my son-in-law is not so much interested in family life. What will happen to my daughter? And he was crying. And thus crying, he came to Narhari Sarkar and he opened his heart. What will happen to my daughter? She is married to Lochan Das Thakur, and whom you are training not to enjoy the material life. Now tell me what to do. So that time Narhari Sarkar orders Lochan Das Thakur to go and live with your wife. So after few days, Lochan Das Thakur, he comes out of his Guru's ashram, that's in Sri Khanda. He comes out of his Guru's ashram, he goes to his father-in-law's hometown, and he didn't know which is the exact house of his father-in-law. So he was trying to search out in that small village, and he found one girl who was fetching water from a well. She was trying to take out the water from the well. And this Lochan Das Thakur, he asks, he inquires, Mataji, where is the house of this XYZ person? And that Mataji, that girl, she points out some direction in this way. She also had forgotten who is my husband. Okay. And he comes, Lochan Das Thakur comes, and he is welcomed very nicely by his father-in-law, mother-in-law. And then they tell him that your wife has gone to fetch water. Please wait for some time. And as soon as the wife enters the house, Lochan Das Thakur sees the same girl, same Mataji, same woman he called as Mataji. She is the same personality who happens to be his wife. Then he says, my dear father-in-law, I cannot marry. I saw her as my mother. How can I unite with her? It's not possible. Please forgive me. And then he leaves that place and goes to Narahari Sarkar. So this is a very great lesson for us. There are so many lessons. So sometimes even I have heard some of the husbands, they call their wives as Mataji. Hamare Mataji aa rahe. They don't know what they are calling. Hamare Mataji aa rahe means our Mataji is coming. The husband is calling his wife as Mataji. That's not good. Wife is wife, not Mataji. That is first lesson. Second lesson is very important for us. That apart from one's own wife, everybody else is a mother. And when we call them as mother, we should behave accordingly. But unfortunately, many people very much fail to behave accordingly. That's the tragedy of modern world. One more important pastime, one more important lesson is that they were married at an early age. That's very important. Nowadays, because of Indian Penal Code, you cannot get your daughter married before 18 and your son married before he becomes 21st. But because of this policy, the kids, they have developed very, very bad habits. Actually, Vedic tradition was very good. What was that? To get married them at an early age, and thereafter the girl would remain with parents only, her parents. And the boy would remain with his parents. And when they would grow up to a proper age, when the girl would achieve puberty and the boy would become grown up young boy, young man, then only they were being united together. Before they were never united. That was the Vedic tradition. But unfortunately, it was malpracticed. Nobody followed this strictly, and prematurely they were trying to unite these husband and wives. So that's why there were very, very horrible results. So the government had to make some other rules like this. But it has very bad results. That is another third lesson. So then, Narahari Sarkar was teaching Lochan Das Thakur about the pastimes and glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Along with Narahari Sarkar, there was another great associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu whose name was Damodar Pandit. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has very unique associates. Out of them, 4 were very special. Sanatana Goswami, Damodar Pandit, Haridas Thakur and Ramananda Rai. Sanatana Goswami was exemplary in his humility. Haridas Thakur, exemplary, he was emblem of tolerance. He was beaten in 22 marketplaces. He was beaten in the 22 marketplaces. Still he was tolerating all those tribulations. That's why he was the emblem of tolerance. And then Ramananda Rai, sense control, Dheeraj. And then Damodar Pandit, simplicity, Arjavan, straightforward. He would even chastise Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is a pastime like that. He would even chastise Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent him to Navadip to Yogapit, because if he's there around in Yogapit, nobody would come to his house. Because Sachimata was there, Vishnupriya was there, and no male person was at home. That's why. This Damodar Pandit was very dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although he was very straightforward, so much so he would chastise Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But because of his this simplicity, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu loved him so much. And he knew so many secrets of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And he was serving Sachimata Vishnupriya Devi in Yogapit. So he knew so many intricacies of the pastimes that happened in Yogapit along with Sachimata and Vishnupriya Devi. So that's why Damodar Pandit, he revealed so many glories of these pastimes to Lochan Das Thakur. In fact, Lochan Das Thakur, as per the instruction of his spiritual master, Narahari Sarkar, compiled this great literature called as Chaitanya Mangal. In the beginning only, he offers his pranams to Narahari Sarkar and Damodar Pandit. Maharaj, Ashirwad dijiye. Hare Krishna. In the beginning only, he offers his pranams and he says, it is by the blessings of Narahari Sarkar and mercy of Damodar Pandit that I am trying to compile this great literature called as Chaitanya Mangal. And as we know, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, he compiled the first biography of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the initial times, he named it as Chaitanya Mangal. And later on, Lochan Das Thakur also compiled this literature and he named his book as Chaitanya Mangal. It is mentioned that it was Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami and Lochan Das Thakur, both of them, they discussed together and then they renamed Vrindavan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Mangal as Chaitanya Bhagavad. Actually, if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita scrutinizingly, the initial part, Adilila's few chapters, you will find it was Kaviraj Goswami who named it as Chaitanya Bhagavad. You have to just read it twice, thrice, 3-4 times. If you read peacefully, you will find it. It's Kaviraj Goswami who named Chaitanya Mangal as Chaitanya Bhagavad. Also he discussed with Lochan Das Thakur and other Vaishnavas, but he was the main cause. He was the main person to rename it like that. In Chaitanya Mangal, there are about 24 chapters. There is Sutra Khanda, which has 2 chapters. Then there is Adi Khanda, which has 7 chapters. And then there is Madhya Khanda, which has 12 chapters. Then there is Shesha Khanda, which has 3 chapters. How many? 25? 24, yeah. And Sutra Khanda, there is a section called Grantharambha. In that Grantharambha, Srila Lochan Das Thakur describes the different pastime of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the sense, basically Chaitanya Mangal mainly describes about the Grahasthashram pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the interactions between Vishnupriya and Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and his marriage also. He describes elaborately. Why? Because principally Chaitanya Mangal is based on Murari Gupta's Kadchas and some of the pastimes which he heard from Narahari Sarkar and majorly which he heard from Damodar Pandit. And all these devotees were intimately connected to Vishnupriya Devi and Sachimata. That's why Lochan Das Thakur mentions most of the time his marriage and his household pastimes. In Grantharambha, Srila Lochan Das Thakur describes once Narad Muni was very much worried because he was seeing the upcoming Kali Yuga. He was foresighting at the end of Dwapar Yuga. And he was very much worried by seeing the downfall of the Kali Yuga people, how they are so much degraded. Manda Sumanda Matayo. And they do not have any inclination towards Krishna consciousness. So he was very much worried about the upliftment of humanity. So, just to ask the remedy for this, he went to Dwarka. At that time, Krishna was in the palace of Rukmini Devi. And already Krishna was discussing with Rukmini Devi about the glories of Radharani. Lochan Thakur describes in the Grantharambha that there is a book called Mahabharata which was compiled by Jaimini. One Mahabharata is compiled by Vyasadeva. Another Mahabharata is compiled by Jaimini Rishi, the disciple of Vyasadeva. And in that Jaimini Rishi's Mahabharata, this pastime comes. Lochan Thakur says like that. And when Narad Muni comes to Dwarka, he finds Krishna is discussing with Rukmini Devi about the glories of Radharani, and he is going to assume or imbibe the mood and complexion of Radharani in Kali Yuga. Rukmini Devi fainted just by hearing the glories of Radharani. And when she woke up, she saw Krishna as Gauranga Sundar. And then Narad Muni comes there. And he was thrilled, he was enchanted by seeing that beautiful golden form of Dwarkadish. And he asks this question. Then Krishna says, this is the same answer. This appearance is the same answer for your question which you have in your heart to ask me for. You want to know the remedy of Kali Yuga? I am going to appear as Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Janvi tere navadvipe golok dhamani akhyani. Gaurango dvibhujo gauraha. Govindo dvibhujo gauraha. So on the bank of Mother Ganga, I will be appearing as Gauranga. Bhavishyami Sachi Sutta. I will appear as the son of Mother Sachi. In this way, Dwarkadish explains him the glories of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Just imagine. And he says, I will be propagating the holy Sankirtan movement. I will be starting this Harinam Sankirtan of the Mahamantra Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. In this way, Narad Muni hears wonderful glories of Gauranga Mahaprabhu's appearance, and thereafter he goes to Naimisharanya. Therein he finds Uddhava. And then Uddhavji asks him, where are you coming from? And anything that you want to teach me? And then Narad Muni tells him, I saw Dwarkadish as Gauranga Mahaprabhu and he is going to appear as Patit Pavan Avatar in Kali Yuga. And then he goes on explaining the glories of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. This is what Lochan Thakur describes in Grantharambha, that how he will be the son of Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata. And then he tells Uddhava, I took this news to Kailash because Narad Muni is running a broadcasting agency, Narada Broadcasting Agency. As soon as he gets some information, whether positive and transcendentally negative, whatever it may be, he has to broadcast it, isn't it? So he goes to Kailash and he relating this story to Uddhava. And he says, I found Lord Shiva was doing Tandav Nritya. I asked him, why are you dancing so heavily? He says, I received Lord's Mahaprasad, so I am dancing like this. And then Parvati says, I did not get that Mahaprasad, so I performed austerities. And then he promised me in Purusha Kshetra, Purushottam Kshetra, as Jagannath, I will give you Mahaprasad. Then I said, no, not only I want it, I want to distribute also. Then Jagannath told me, I am going to appear as Lord Chaitanya also. I will distribute that Mahaprasad all over the globe. This is how Narad Muni tells Uddhava, and this is what Lochan Thakur is recording in his Grantharambha of Chaitanya Mangal. Thereafter, Narad Muni goes to Brahmaloka and he does his duty of informing him that how Gauranga Mahaprabhu is going to appear and deliver the fallen souls of Kali Yuga. Then Brahmaji himself quotes verses from the Bhagavatam. Krishna Varanam tu Shah Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam, like this. So many verses from the Bhagavatam he quotes. Krishna Shukla Rakta Satapitam Idanim Krishna Tam Gata. So many verses he quotes from the Bhagavatam and he affirms what Narad Muni is saying. Narad Muni was so jubilant to hear from his father. And thereafter, Narad Muni goes to Jagannath Puri. There also Gauranga Mahaprabhu's appearance been discussed. And thereafter he goes to Vaikuntha. There also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance being discussed. And then he goes to Golok Vrindavan. There he sees Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Golok Vrindavan has two sections. One is Vraja and second is Navadip. 50-50. And in that section Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there. And therein Narad Muni sees Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he sees how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is relishing the mellows of Radharani, Vrindavan mellows. Thereafter, it is being described that how various demigods like Brahaspati will become Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Hanumanji will become Murari Gupta, Vyasadeva will come as Vrindavan Das Thakur. So many pastimes are being described, so many personalities are being described. Actually, the time is very less. There are so many details and intricacies of Chaitanya Mangal that we might not have heard or we must have heard, which is very less. There are so many elaborate narrations. Anyways, I'll try to summarize. Murari Gupta was childhood friend of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nimai Pandit. So he recorded his marriage ceremony also, which Lochan Das Thakur elaborates in a detail. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was first married to Lakshmi Priya. This is the same Lakshmi Devi who is performing austerities to take part in Raslila. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave that opportunity to take part in Raslila. That is Sankirtan movement. And she goes back home, back to Godhead because of separation. And thereafter, there was Vishnu Priya, the daughter of Sanatan Mishra, and the marriage was fixed by Vanamali Acharya. He was the same Brahmana who carried the letter of Rukmini Devi. That is his eternal service, to fix the marriage. Marriage bureau house. So, and this marriage was sponsored by Buddhimanta Khan. This Buddhimanta Khan was very rich person and he was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His name was Buddhimanta and he was given the title by Muslim government as Khan. Khan was not name, it was the title. Just like we give now Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, like that. And the pompous marriage is elaborately described in Chaitanya Mangal, how it was celebrated. How Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes with all the friends to Sanatan Mishra's house. There is a kirtan and so many musical instruments being played. And while coming back, they were having Vishnu Priya in the palanquin. You know that palanquin? They carry the bride in that palanquin. And they were carrying. There is a huge description of that travel. When she came at the doorstep of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Yoga Pit, and there is a particular ceremony how to enter for a newly wedded wife. There is a particular ceremony. She cannot enter just like that. There is a sanskara. They do that. And while doing that sanskara, she hit her toe, the big toe, to the threshold. And she felt it so painful, so painful. It was unbearable, Lakshmi Priya, Vishnu Priya. Nimai Pandit was inside the door, Vishnu Priya is outside, and he stood on her. Nimai Pandit, he kept his right foot on her toe and he pressed it lovingly. Immediately, Vishnu Priya forgot all the pains. She felt ecstasies. And that's how she entered Nimai Pandit's house. There so many details are being described in Chaitanya Mangal by Lochan Thakur. There is also one small detail that we find that happened on the Makar Sankranti, that is 14th of January 1515. The prior night, that is 13th of January 1515. Because Makar Sankranti is all the time on the 14th January or 15th January. I don't know how this tithi is not being changed with the English calendar. Other tithis are being changed all the time. Janmashtami is 15 days before or 15 days later. But Makar Sankranti is always on 14th January or 15th January. Most of the time 14th January. Isn't it? It's a interesting fact. Prior to Makar Sankranti night, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave instruction. It's mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavad also. If you want to please me, then chant all the time Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. This is mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavad. Thereafter, Sridhar Kholavacha brings that squash. Sachimata makes the sweet of that, kheer of that squash. And late at night, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enters his bedroom where Vishnu Priya was waiting for him. And then she starts massaging his lotus feet. Mahaprabhu is laying on his bed and Vishnu Priya is massaging. Mahaprabhu has closed his eyes, he is trying to rest, and he feels some hot tears being shed on his lotus feet. He opens his eyes. What happened? Why are you crying? Then she says, my dear Lord, I have heard a rumor. What is that? You are going to take sannyas. Is it true? If you love me, can you please tell me the truth? Till now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed Nityanand Prabhu, Chandrasekhar Acharya, Sachi Mata also he informed. He did not inform Vishnu Priya. It's very heart-touching incident. In fact, after sannyas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came so many times to Navadip. First he comes to Kulia. He also comes to Shantipur. Twice he comes to Shantipur. Like that. Sachimata goes and meets Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. She gives her blessings to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But never he comes back to Mayapur, the Yogapit, where Vishnu Priya was staying. Because a sannyasi is forbidden to meet his wife after sannyas. Just imagine the plight of Vishnu Priya Devi and her sacrifice. And she is crying here. Before he was taking sannyas, just prior to his sannyas ceremony, it was early dawn. It was like 2:30 or 3 a.m. She was crying. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, yes, for the deliverance of the world, I have to take sannyas. And then he goes on explaining the attachment of family life. It's all Maya. Temporarily we are connected. By the force of time we will be separated. Don't get so much of lamented. And it's for the sake of people that I am taking sannyas. She starts profusely and loudly crying. Earlier she was sobbing, but afterwards she started loudly crying. Just imagine, because in Vedic tradition, if husband takes sannyas, that means wife becomes widow. She becomes widow. Just imagine, she is only 16 years old. She becomes widow. And what is her future now? What is her future? Sachimata can meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. She could have gone even to Jagannath Puri also, Sachimata. But Vishnu Priya can never see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again for the rest of her life. And for your kind knowledge, I would like to inform you, Vishnu Priya lived a long life. Long life. She even meets Srimad Acharya, Narottam Das Thakur. She blesses them. She lives a long life. Just imagine the separation of Vishnu Priya Devi, the plight of Vishnu Priya Devi, her sorrow. the condition of her heart. She is crying just before sannyas, few hours before sannyas. And Mahaprabhu has not informed her that I am going to take sannyas. When she asked, then only he is telling. And then he shows his four-armed form and he embraces. Actually, it is said that he decorates Shringar. He decorates Vishnupriya at that night. He combs her hair and makes that, what it is called as? Braid? He makes that, hair very decoratively auspicious. And he puts some flowers also in her hair. And he embraces. She keeps on crying. And he shows his four-armed form. And then he leaves home. That's why the Bhajan Rishi, he says, the purport of this verse is very secret. The Bhajan Rishi in the 11th canto, Ekadasha Skanda of Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th chapter, he is describing Krishna Varanam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Yadne Sankirtana Prayer Yajantihi Sumedhasa. This is the 32nd verse of the 5th chapter of the 11th verse. Thereafter, 11th canto. Thereafter, 2-3 verses. The series of verses come. And in that verse, he is describing this incident in a disguised format. Taktva sudustyaja surepsita raja lakshmim dharmishtha arya vachasam yadagadharanyam maya mrugam dayitam ipsitam anvadhavat vande mahapurushate charanara vindam. These 2-3 verses, they end with this line. Vande mahapurushate charanara vindam. Bhajan Rishi, he is prostrating himself at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says this single verse applies to all three incarnations, Sri Ramachandra, Bhagavan Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I will not describe the other two, previous two. I will describe Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu since the time is very less. Taktva sudusteja surep sita rajya lakshmi. Basically this verse is spoken for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the proofs are two. Prior to that there is Krishna Varanam Tvisha Krishnam. That verse is there. And now you will hear how it is only for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although Vishwanath Chakravarti has connected to Krishna also and Ramachandra also. But it is specifically for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How? Taktva sudusteja surep sita raja lakshmim. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave up. Taktva sudusteja. It is very difficult to give up this familial affection. When his wife was 16-year-old only, and she was very surrendered, loving and noble. She was very pure and obedient. Who will give up such wife? And his mother, who was a widow. There was no male person at home. Sudusteja surep sita rajya lakshmim. Surep sita, even the demigods desire such Rajya Lakshmi. Which is that Rajya Lakshmi? You know that? That is Vishnupriya Devi. She is the personification of Lakshmi Devi. All the Lakshmi Devis collected together, that is Vishnupriya Devi. He gave up that attachment. Basically, one Acharya says, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave up the association of his most beloved people like Vishnupriya Devi, Sachimata, Srivas Thakur, Murari Gupta, Sridhar Kholavecha, such people. He gave up their association. For what reason, He gave up the association of most beloved people for the most wretched people like us, for the most fallen and envious people like us. That's why Rupa Goswami chants, Namo Mahavadanyaya, Krishna Prema Pradayate, Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya, That's why he is called as Namo Mahavadanyaya. For the most envious kind of people, he gave up the association of most beloved people. Taktva sudusteja surep sita rajya lakshmim dharmishta arya vachasam yadagadharanyam. Dharmishta arya, he is dharmishta arya vachasam. He was cursed by a brahmana not to enjoy the materialistic pleasures. With that curse, he took the advantage of that curse and he took sannyas. Yadagad aranyam. And he wandered throughout South India, Northern India, and everywhere. Aranyam, the forest of material enjoyment, which is explained in the 5th canto. He wandered through that. For what? You know, for what? Maya mrugam dayitam ipsitam anvadhavat. Maya mrugam. We are following, we are chasing behind the mirage of happiness. Maya mrugam. There is a so-called happiness in this material world, and we are chasing that happiness in this desert-like world. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is running behind us to catch us. And that's why he gave up his loving family affection, his attachment. Just for our sake, for envious people, he gave up that. That's why he is called as most merciful person. And that's why Bhajan Rishi, the Navayogendras, they pay their obeisances to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by saying, Vande Mahapurushate Charanarvindam. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is unlimited. It's unimaginable. Kaviraj Goswami says, if you want to imagine Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, you cannot imagine. It's beyond your imagination. Lochan Thakur sings, Parama Karuna Pahu Duijana Nitai Gaura Chandra. We cannot imagine or fathom the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. So, all these intricacies are explained by Lochan Thakur in Chaitanya Mangala, and various acharyas have explained on this glorious pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's interactions with Vishnu Priya Devi. So, it's very nice that we are discussing the life sketch and pastimes of Lochan Thakur, who is describing these pastimes. And it is mentioned elsewhere that Lochan Thakur mainly described Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. So he forgot to mention Nityananda Prabhu's other pastimes. He did not mention much of Nityananda Prabhu's pastimes. So he was feeling regretted. Oh, I did not glorify Nityananda much. It's not good. So that's why he composed so many songs. So many songs. Nitai Gunamani Amar is one of them. And then another is very famous, which we'll sing now. He composed that song. It is very famous. Akarodha Parmananda Nityananda Rai Abhimana Shunya Nitai Nagare Bedai. First, Akarodha Parmananda Nityananda Rai Abhimana Shunya Nitai Nagare Bedai. Adhama patita jiver dware dware giya. Adhama patita jiver dware dware giya. Hari Nama Mahamantra diche na bilaiya. Hari Nama Mahamantra diche na bilaiya. जारे देखो तारे को है दंते तृणधारी. जारे देखो तारे को है दंते तृणधारी. आमारे किनियालह बोलो गौरहारी. आमारे किनियालह बोलो गौरहारी. बोलो गौरहारी, बोलो गौरहारी. बोलो गौरहारी, बोलो गौरहारी. आमार किनियालह बोलो गौरहारी. एता बोली नित्यानंद भूमि गाड़ी जाए. एता बोली नित्यानंद भूमि गाड़ी जाए. सोनार पर्वत ये न धूलाते लोटाए. सोनार पर्वत ये न धूलाते लोटाए. अकरोध परमानंद नित्यानंद राय. अभिमान शून्य निताई नगरे बेडाय हेनो अवतारे जार रती ना जन्मिलो हेनो अवतारे जार रती ना जन्मिलो लोचन बोले से ही पापी एलो आर गेलो लोचन बोले से ही पापी एलो आर गेलो आकरोध परमानंद नित्यानंद राय अभिमान शून्य निताई नगरे बेडाय जयो नित्यानंद राम जयो नित्यानंद राम नित्यानंद राम जयो नित्यानंद राम जय लोचन दास ठाकुर जय लोचन दास ठाकुर लोचन दास ठाकुर जय लोचन दास ठाकुर जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल गौर हरि बोल श्री चैतन्य मंगल की श्रील लोचन दास ठाकुर आविर्भाव महोत्सव के जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद के समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद के गौर प्रेमानंदे धन्यवाद।